Discipline is the foundation. Repetition is the proof. Success is just the outcome. If you ever wondered why your life isn't changing, look at what you're doing every single day. Not once in a while. Not when you feel motivated. Every day. The truth is, the gap between where you are and where you want to be is built on one thing: consistent action. You don't need a new plan every week. You don't need to chase inspiration. You need to decide what matters and do it daily. That's where the power is. Small actions done with discipline lead to big results. Not overnight, but always. Too many people are addicted to intensity. They want results without the repetition. But life pays those who keep showing up, quietly, repeatedly, without applause, without shortcuts. If you stay steady, you start winning. This video is about the power of consistent action. It's for those who are tired of talking and ready to start living better. If you've had enough of starting strong and stopping short, this is for you. Stay with me. I'll show you how to stop guessing, stay focused, and take control. One simple action at a time. Number 1, choose one direction and walk in it daily. You have to decide what you want your life to look like. You have to stop bouncing from one thing to another, hoping something will stick. That's not how people succeed. That's not how you grow. You want to know what makes the difference. It's when you choose one direction and you walk in it every single day, not once a week, not when you feel good, every single day. Most people don't fail because they don't have potential. They fail because they keep changing direction. They get distracted. They get bored. They want results too fast. So they jump to something new, and again they start over. But life doesn't reward people who keep restarting. Life rewards those who stay with one decision long enough to build something real. It's hard to do the same thing every day. I know that. It gets boring. It feels slow. Sometimes it even feels useless. But the truth is, consistency is the only way to reach the kind of life you really want. The people you look up to didn't get there overnight. They chose a direction, and they stuck with it, even when they weren't sure it was working. They stayed the course, and eventually, they got what they came for. You have to stop needing everything to feel exciting. You have to stop needing to be motivated all the time. Motivation is nice, but it's not dependable. It's not consistent. But your actions can be. And that's where the real power is. You don't need to be the best in the world at something right away. You just need to keep walking in the same direction every day, day in, day out, without quitting when it gets quiet. You know what consistency builds? It builds proof, not to others, to you. When you keep doing something, even on the days you don't want to, you start proving to yourself that you're reliable, that you mean what you say, that you're strong enough to follow through. And that's where real confidence comes from. Not talk, not hype, but follow through. Daily follow through. There will always be people who seem to be ahead of you. Don't let that shake you. Most of the time, they've just been walking in one direction longer than you have. That's all. And if you keep going, if you keep walking your path without jumping off every time things get uncomfortable, you'll catch up. Then you'll pass them. And not because you ran faster, but because you stayed steady. You also have to be honest about what direction you're walking in. Is it based on who you want to become? Is it aligned with your values and goals? Or are you chasing something because someone else said it's good? Don't walk in a direction that leads to a place you don't even want to be. Pick something that matters to you, something that builds your future, and then pour your energy into it every single day. You don't need to figure everything out today. You just need to decide which way is forward for you. And keep taking steps in that direction. Small steps add up. Most people think they need to take big leaps to change their life. That's not true. You change your life by doing small things again and again until they become part of who you are. That's consistency. That's where results come from. Some days you're going to feel like nothing is happening. You'll feel like your actions aren't making a difference. That's normal. But here's what you don't see right away. Every time you show up, you're planting a seed. And seeds don't grow in a day. They need time. But if you stop watering them, if you stop showing up, they die. That's the hard truth. So keep showing up. Keep doing your part. The growth is coming. You just have to give it time. People think they need more information. They think they need more skills before they start. No, what they need is more action. Consistent action. You don't learn by thinking, you learn by doing. You figure it out as you go. But if you keep starting and stopping, you'll stay stuck. You won't build anything worth keeping. Choose one direction and stay in motion. That's how progress happens. The days when you feel lazy or tired, those are the days that test you. That's where you separate yourself from the crowd. Most people quit on those days. But if you push through, just take one step, even a small one, you're winning. You're building something inside of you that no one can take away. You're building character, strength, discipline, and eventually that shows up on the outside too. If you keep changing your mind, you'll never have anything to show. If you keep quitting because it's hard, you'll stay behind. You don't have to be perfect. You don't need to feel great every day, but you do need to be consistent. You do need to stay in motion, even if it's slow. This is what separates winners from everyone else. Not talent, not resources, but the decision to stick with something long enough to make it work. Anyone can start. Not everyone finishes. Most people talk. Few people show up every day. You want to change your life. Choose a path and commit to it. Not for a week, not for a month. Make it a part of who you are. Make it your lifestyle. If it matters to you, prove it with your actions. Don't wait for motivation. Don't wait for support. Walk your path daily, with or without applause, with or without results. Because if you stay faithful to the process, the results will come. And one more thing, don't expect people to understand your path. It's not theirs to understand. It's yours to walk. Stay focused on where you're going. Stop needing approval to keep moving. The approval will come when the results come, but you can't wait for that. You have to believe in the direction you chose. That belief will carry you when you're tired. That belief will remind you why you started. Every day matters. Every action counts. Every choice shapes the next one. So ask yourself today, are you walking in the direction that matters? And if so, are you walking in it every single day? Because that's the only way real change happens. Choose it. Stick with it. Walk it daily, and watch how your life begins to transform. Not in one big moment, but in the daily effort you didn't skip. That's the power of consistent action. Number 2, take small daily steps toward your biggest goal. If you really want to move towards your biggest goal, stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop waiting to feel fully ready. You won't feel ready every day, and that's okay. What matters most is that you take a small step today. That one small step might not change everything right away, but it will move you forward. And if you do that again tomorrow, and again the next day, you'll create something most people never do: momentum. The truth is, consistency doesn't have to be huge. It just has to be real. Every small action adds up when it's done daily. Most people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in a year. That's because they chase speed over stability. They burn out. They give up too soon. What actually works is doing one thing each day that pushes you forward. Just one. It could be a 5-minute task. It could be a phone call, a written paragraph, a workout, a better choice. When done every day, these steps turn into progress. Real progress is built in the small things we repeat, not in the big things we only do once in a while. The reason most people don't reach their biggest goal isn't lack of desire, it's lack of structure. They don't have a system in place to keep moving. That's why small daily steps are so powerful. They create a structure. A simple daily routine gives you direction and focus. You don't wake up confused. You don't waste time deciding what to do. You already know the next step, and when you follow through with that step, you gain something even more powerful than motivation. You gain personal trust. You begin to believe in yourself. Every small step you take trains your mind to stay engaged. It builds discipline. It gives you proof that you're serious about your life. And that proof matters. Because on the days when nothing feels exciting, on the days when everything feels slow or pointless, that proof keeps you grounded. You remember what you've built. You remember that every day hasn't been wasted. Small steps taken with purpose keep your mind clear. They stop you from falling back into old habits. They remind you that you're still in control, that you're still moving forward, even if it's not flashy. When you take one small action every day, you stop depending on motivation. Motivation fades. It comes and goes like the weather. But small daily effort builds a different kind of fuel: self-respect. Every time you show up and do the thing you said you would, you earn that respect. And when you respect yourself, you stop looking for shortcuts. You stop chasing every new idea that promises faster results. You become more focused. You become more patient. And eventually that patience turns into power. Quiet, steady, and unshakable power that others can't see coming. Small steps also remove pressure. When you aim to make huge leaps every day, you eventually freeze. You feel overwhelmed. You get stuck. But when you know that one small, simple step is enough, you stay calm. You focus better. You actually enjoy the process more. And that enjoyment keeps you going longer. You don't dread the work anymore. You learn to appreciate it. You learn to show up even when it's not perfect. That's how results are built. Not with pressure and panic, but with steady, manageable effort repeated again and again. There's something powerful about knowing you've done your part for the day. You sleep better. You feel lighter, because you're not carrying the weight of all the things you didn't do. One step completed is better than 10 ideas left untouched. Action clears the mind. It keeps your energy focused. It prevents that frustrating feeling of being busy but not productive. The small step you take today may feel like it's not enough, but over time it becomes a foundation. And if you keep building on that foundation, you'll create something real, something solid that won't fall apart. It's easy to look at someone else's progress and feel behind, but you don't know how many steps they've taken. You don't know how many days they've shown up when no one was watching. So don't compare your beginning to someone else's middle. Focus on your step today. That's what matters. Every person who's built something meaningful did it with consistent action. They did the hard, simple things daily. They didn't always feel proud of their progress, but they kept going. And because they kept going, they got further than anyone who stopped to overthink. You can build anything if you're willing to be consistent with your actions. Whether it's your health, your career, your relationships, or your mindset. It all comes down to daily behavior. What you choose to do today will shape how you feel tomorrow. If you want a different future, you need different actions now. But don't think big. Think steady. Think clear. What's the next small thing you can do today that aligns with your biggest goal? Do that. And if you do that again tomorrow, and the day after that, your future will start to shift. Your life changes through repeated choices. One step won't get you there, but one step repeated daily will. It's simple, but not easy. Most people won't do it. They'll wait. They'll hope. They'll talk. But those who choose to act, those who commit to small steps every day, are the ones who win. Not overnight, not by luck, but through quiet, steady action that never stops. So start now. Don't make it complicated. Don't wait for the right mood. Just move forward today and again tomorrow. That's the power of consistent action. That's how you reach your biggest goal, one small step at a time. Number 3. Force yourself to act even when you're discouraged. There will be days when nothing feels right. You wake up tired, unmotivated, and maybe even defeated before the day begins. You don't feel like doing anything productive, and every part of you wants to shut down. But these are the days that test how serious you are. If you only take action when everything feels good, you won't build anything strong. You have to learn to act even when your emotions are pulling you in the wrong direction. That's what separates progress from delay. When it's hard to act, that's exactly when action matters most. Discouragement is part of the process. It shows up when things aren't moving fast enough, when your efforts don't seem to be paying off, or when you compare your journey to someone else's highlight reel. But the truth is, those feelings don't make you weak. They make you human. What makes you strong is the decision to move forward in the middle of that frustration. Action doesn't require you to feel ready. It just requires you to show up anyway. One small step taken while you're discouraged carries more weight than a dozen taken when everything feels easy. If you wait for the perfect mood, you'll wait forever. That's how people stay stuck. Waiting for energy, waiting for inspiration, waiting for things to feel just right. You have to break that cycle. You have to train yourself to move forward without needing permission from your emotions. This isn't about ignoring your feelings. It's about leading them. When you act while discouraged, you're not just making progress, you're building strength. You're proving to yourself that your life is not controlled by how you feel, but by what you decide to do. It's easy to act when everything feels exciting. It's much harder when it feels pointless or repetitive. But the people who build real success are the ones who act consistently through boredom, setbacks, and doubts. That kind of discipline is rare. Most people quit when they hit that wall. But if you keep going, even slowly, you begin to grow in ways you never would if you stopped. You develop patience. You develop grit. And those qualities will serve you long after the hard days pass. That's how personal transformation really happens. You have to get comfortable with discomfort. If your standard for taking action is only when I feel good, you've already lost. The most powerful version of yourself is built when you push through resistance, not avoid it. When you're discouraged and still follow through on your task, you send a message to your mind. I can handle this. That message builds confidence. Real confidence doesn't come from compliments or wins. It comes from staying consistent, even when no one sees the effort and nothing feels rewarding. Some days will feel like a waste. You'll do the work, and nothing will seem to change. No applause, no big result, just another quiet day of effort. But those days count more than you think. Every action you take during discouragement adds to the total that pushes you forward. Success isn't made in moments of motivation. It's made in the quiet hours when you're tempted to give in. But don't, over time, those decisions add up. They form a habit. They create a lifestyle, one you can be proud of. When your mind tells you to quit, that's when you need to stay the most alert. The voice of discouragement is persuasive. It whispers all the reasons why you should stop, why it's not worth it, why you'll never make it. But that voice is not your truth. It's just a sign that you're pushing into something uncomfortable. And discomfort is where change begins. If you can stay steady in that space, you'll begin to separate yourself from everyone who gave up too early. The more you act through discouragement, the less power it has over you. You begin to see it for what it is. Temporary, emotions pass. Energy returns. But results only come if you keep moving through the dip. On the days when nothing feels right, anchor yourself to your actions, not your emotions. Get out of your head and into the task. Do what needs to be done, even if your heart's not in it. Sometimes your heart catches up later. The key is to not give in to the pull of doing nothing. Taking action while discouraged teaches you to trust your future self. You begin to rely on your discipline, not your feelings. And with each day you stay consistent. Even during the low moments, you build a quiet kind of power. Not loud, not dramatic, but steady, dependable. It's the kind of strength people notice, without you having to say a word. You begin to walk differently, think differently, and the world starts to respond to you differently. Because you've proven that you don't fold under pressure. Every step taken through discouragement is a step that counts double. It's a step that says, I'm not just in this when it's easy. I'm in this for real. And that mindset changes everything. It's not about speed. It's not about perfection. It's about persistence. It's about showing up, even with doubts, even with fear, even with discouragement. Because if you can act in those moments, you can act in any moment. And that's the power of consistent action. The ability to keep going, no matter what stands in the way. Number 4. Take quiet action instead of loud, empty words. Talk is easy. You don't need strength to talk. You don't need discipline to say what you're going to do. Anyone can speak with confidence. Anyone can post about their goals or tell others how hard they're working. But none of that matters if it's not backed by action. Quiet action doesn't need applause. It doesn't look for recognition. It simply moves forward, day after day, without making noise. Real growth is built in silence. It's built when no one's watching. The loudest person in the room usually isn't the one doing the work. It's the quiet one who stays focused. When you take quiet action, you avoid the pressure of performance. You don't waste energy trying to impress others. You stay focused on the work instead of the attention. That's a stronger position to be in. When you talk less and do more, you give yourself room to improve without feeling judged. You're not performing. You're building. And that's where the real power lives. Most people want recognition too early. They want others to notice them before they've earned it. But recognition built on words fades fast. Recognition built on consistent results lasts. There's no need to announce every step. If your progress is real, people will see it eventually. You won't have to prove anything. Your actions will do the talking. The problem with too much talk is it creates expectations you haven't fulfilled yet. And when those expectations go unmet, your words lose meaning. On the other hand, when you act quietly and consistently, your results speak louder than anything you could ever say. You don't have to defend yourself. You don't have to convince anyone. You just have to keep showing up and doing what matters. Quiet action keeps you grounded. It keeps you from getting caught in the trap of chasing attention. Once you start needing applause, you become dependent on it. And the moment it fades, your motivation disappears too. But when you work in silence, you're building for yourself. You're not driven by validation. You're driven by progress. That's the kind of drive that lasts. That's the kind that stays strong even when the spotlight is gone. And in time, people will respect that more than any speech or promise you could ever make. It's tempting to talk about what you're going to achieve. It feels good. It gives you a sense of control. But talking doesn't change anything. It doesn't build skill. It doesn't create value. Only effort does that. Every time you choose quiet action over empty talk, you take ownership of your growth. You're no longer just a person with goals. You become someone who works, someone who earns, someone who builds their life step by step. You don't waste time explaining. You invest your time in moving forward. Quiet action sharpens your focus. When you stop talking about your plans and just do the work, you have fewer distractions. You're not stuck defending your timeline. You're not busy reacting to feedback you didn't ask for. You're not performing for anyone. You're working for something. And that focus gives you a powerful edge. While others are busy trying to sound successful, you're busy becoming it. And that difference shows over time. Not immediately, but in the long run when consistency starts to pay off. There's something powerful about surprising people with results. When they didn't see it coming, when they didn't expect much, and then you show them not through words but through what you've built. That kind of impact lasts. It earns respect without asking for it. People remember those who said nothing but delivered everything. That's the effect of quiet action. It earns trust slowly and silently. But that trust runs deep. When you say less and do more, your life becomes your message. And that message speaks volumes. You don't have to disappear. You don't have to isolate yourself. But you do need to be intentional about where your energy goes. If you're using your voice, use it to speak truth, not hype. Use it to share value, not empty promises. And let your work do the rest. Every day you act without making noise. You're putting yourself ahead, not because you're hiding, but because you're building something solid. Something that doesn't fall apart when people stop watching. Quiet action is honest. It's steady. It doesn't depend on attention to keep going. There will be moments when people question your silence. When they ask what you're doing, don't feel pressured to explain. You don't owe anyone a summary of your process. What matters is that you're moving forward, that you're taking steps, and those steps, though quiet, are powerful. You'll see the difference in your results, in your mindset, in your habits. While others are chasing fast attention, you'll be gaining long-term results. The ones that don't fade, the ones that stay because they were earned, not claimed. Consistency doesn't need noise. It doesn't need drama. It just needs effort, repeated daily. Quiet action is the foundation of everything real. It's where mastery is developed. It's where discipline is formed. Not with grand speeches, not with announcements, but with steady work that speaks when the results finally come. Keep acting, even if no one notices. Keep building, even if no one claps. Because in time, the quiet path leads to something far greater than noise. It leads to real achievement. And that's what the power of consistent action is all about. Number 5, earn trust with daily proof, not with promises. Trust isn't built by talking about what you'll do. It's built by showing up and doing it. Every promise you make means nothing without action to support it. People might listen to your words, but they remember your behavior. If you say you'll improve, then prove it with how you use your time each day. If you say you're committed, let your discipline show it. Trust grows when there's evidence, not when there are speeches. And that evidence doesn't come from one big moment. It comes from repeated proof, seen in how you act, especially when no one is checking. Most people don't lose trust because they failed once. They lose it because they kept saying things they never followed through on. They overpromised and underdelivered again and again. That breaks credibility. But when you show up every day and take small, consistent steps, even without saying much, people start to pay attention. They begin to believe in you, not because you said the right things, but because you lived them. Actions show character. Actions show reliability. And over time, actions show people who you really are, not who you say you want to be. Daily proof doesn't have to be loud or dramatic. It's not about making big moves all the time. It's about being consistent with the little things that build momentum. When people see you doing the work, day after day, they start to trust your word. Because now your word has weight. Now your promises have a history to back them up. That's how you earn trust, not by asking for it, not by demanding it, but by earning it slowly through repetition. Real trust is always built over time, not given out in moments. Think about the people you trust the most. It's not because they gave you a speech. It's because they've been there when they said they would. They followed through when it mattered. They didn't need to convince you. They proved it with their consistency. That's the kind of trust you should aim to build. Whether in your personal life or your professional path, be the one who shows up. Be the one who finishes what they start. And if you say you're working on something, let your behavior reflect it, not just your words. The truth is, most people are tired of promises. They've heard them before. They've seen words that led nowhere. If you want to be different, don't try to sound impressive. Be dependable. Be steady. Do what you say over and over again until people don't have to ask if you're serious. They'll know. They'll see it in the way you move. They'll feel it in the way you operate. You don't need to talk about your growth. You need to live it. Every day is a chance to put proof behind what you believe. Consistency builds trust, not only with others, but with yourself. When you follow through, you prove that your word matters. You create inner strength. You stop second-guessing your ability to stay committed. You begin to feel grounded, reliable, stable, and that internal trust makes you more confident in everything you do. You no longer need to convince anyone of your goals. You just need to stay consistent, and the results will do all the explaining. The more you show up, the less you need to speak. Your life becomes the evidence. Empty promises damage more than your reputation. They damage your identity. They make you question your own standards. But when you choose daily action over daily excuses, something shifts. You stop living in the future and start owning the present. You become a person of action, not a person of potential. And the more you act with intention, the more your promises start to mean something. They become less about what might happen and more about what is already happening. Trust starts there on the days when you choose responsibility over delay. Even if no one notices at first, keep showing up, keep putting in the work. Because over time, people always recognize consistency. It might take weeks, it might take years, but consistent behavior builds a track record, and that record becomes your reputation. So don't worry if your progress is quiet. Don't worry if your efforts aren't praised. Just focus on doing what you said you would do. Keep giving people a reason to believe, not through convincing words, but through visible effort that never fades. There is no shortcut to earning respect. There's no fast lane to being trusted. It only happens through repeated effort and integrity. When you act with consistency, you don't just meet expectations, you raise them. You show people that reliability is still possible. You become someone others can depend on. And that kind of reputation is more valuable than any temporary approval. It lasts longer. It carries weight, and it opens doors that no amount of talking ever will. So choose to act daily. Choose to build trust the right way. This is where the power of consistent action lives, not in quick wins or loud declarations, but in quiet, repeated proof. Proof that you're serious. Proof that you mean what you say. Proof that your goals are backed by effort, not just emotion. That proof, stacked day after day, becomes the foundation of everything lasting. It builds your name. It shapes your character. It gives you a reputation that no one can deny. And it all starts with one choice. Show up today, do what matters, and let your actions speak for you. Number 6. Build strong outcomes by repeating the right behaviors. Outcomes are never built by accident. They are created by repeated actions that move in the same direction. When you want something strong, something stable, you have to look at what you're doing each day. If your daily behaviors are weak, the results will be the same. But if you build a habit of doing the right things over and over, you create a foundation that holds under pressure. The right behaviors done consistently build trust, skill, and results. You don't need to do everything. You just need to do the right things long enough for them to work. The biggest mistake people make is chasing new tactics without mastering the basics. They skip from one routine to another, hoping for faster progress. But strong outcomes are built by repeating what works, not by constantly changing plans. You must find the actions that move you forward and stick with them. It might feel boring. It might feel too simple, but that's where the power is. Mastery doesn't come from variety. It comes from consistency. And consistency with the right behaviors leads to improvement that becomes impossible to ignore. You don't need to be perfect, but you do need to be steady. The strongest outcomes don't come from intense bursts of energy. They come from people who stick with simple, clear actions every day. They don't quit when they're tired. They don't stop when progress slows down. They stay committed to the routine because they understand something most people ignore. Results are built over time, not in one great moment, but in hundreds of small choices. The more you repeat the right behaviors, the more those actions shape your future. It's easy to underestimate the power of repetition. Doing the same task over and over may seem dull, but every time you do it with intention, you become better. You start to refine your ability. You move more efficiently. You see problems faster. You correct mistakes sooner. That's how growth works. It doesn't always feel exciting, but it works. Repeating the right behaviors sharpens your judgment. It gives you control over your outcomes. You're not guessing anymore. You're improving on purpose. And that's what creates long-term strength, both in skill and in mindset. Outcomes that last are always rooted in daily choices. The routines you build today become the results you live with tomorrow. If you want to change your circumstances, change what you're doing consistently. Strong outcomes don't require luck. They require intention. You have to ask yourself every day, is this behavior helping me or holding me back? If it's not helping, remove it. Replace it with something that does. Then repeat it until it becomes natural. That's how you create a life that doesn't depend on outside circumstances. It depends on your effort. There's nothing flashy about doing the same thing every day. It's not exciting to most people. That's why few stay with it. But that's also why it works. Because most people won't do it. If you commit to repeating the right behaviors when others stop, you gain an edge they can't catch up with. You build momentum. You create stability in a world full of distraction. You become reliable, not just to others, but to yourself. You stop hoping things will change. You start taking control through your actions. And that control leads to powerful outcomes. When you stay with the right behaviors, your confidence grows. Not because everything is perfect, but because you're becoming consistent. And consistency builds belief. It shows you that you can be trusted with responsibility. It reminds you that progress is earned, not handed out. People notice the difference, not because you told them what you're doing, but because your results start to show. They see the discipline, they see the progress, and it becomes clear that your outcomes weren't luck. They were built with repeated effort over time. If you ever feel stuck, the first thing to check is your behavior. Ask yourself if what you're doing every day is aligned with your goals. If not, make changes. But don't change everything. Find the few things that matter most and do them with discipline. Make those your standard. Then keep repeating them, even when it feels slow, even when results don't come immediately. Because real outcomes are slow. They build underneath the surface before they become visible. And if you keep doing what's right, they always rise to the top. Strong results are not about working harder. They're about working smarter and repeating what works. You don't need to burn out trying to do everything. You need to double down on what actually drives progress. The right behaviors done consistently beat talent, potential, and big talk. They build your future one day at a time. People may not see your effort today, but they will see what it turns into. And when they do, it will be clear that you earned every bit of it. Not through noise, but through steady repetition. That's the power of consistent action. It doesn't ask for attention. It doesn't demand quick results. It simply stays focused on what matters most, doing the right things over and over, until they produce results that can't be denied, until they create a life you don't need to escape from, until they build the kind of strength and success that stays. If you want strong outcomes, stop guessing. Start choosing your actions carefully. Then repeat them again and again. That's how it's done. That's how you win, with consistency and the right behavior repeated daily. Number 7, prove your priorities through quiet and repeated effort. What you truly value isn't shown in what you say. It's revealed in how you spend your time and where you place your effort. If something is a priority, it won't just be on your mind, it'll show up in your actions. Quiet, repeated effort tells the truth. It doesn't need explaining. It doesn't need an audience. It simply keeps going. That kind of effort reveals what matters most to you. If your priorities are real, they'll be visible in your routine. If they're not showing up in your actions, then they're just ideas, not commitments. There's a difference between wishing and working. Everyone says they want more out of life, but only a few back it up with daily discipline. It's easy to talk about goals. It's harder to live in alignment with them every day, especially when no one is watching. That's where character is built. Quiet, repeated effort is uncomfortable because it takes time. It takes patience. But that's why it's powerful. It separates those who are serious from those who are just interested. You don't need to say you're focused. Show it in what you do daily. People notice patterns. Over time, they stop listening to your promises and start watching your behavior. They see what you give your energy to. They see what you protect with your time. You can't fake consistency. You can't fake effort. It shows up in your results, your habits, your presence. If you say your health matters, it will show in your choices. If you say your future matters, it will show in how you prepare. Quiet effort builds credibility, not because of what it says, but because of what it proves without saying anything. Your routine is your truth. If you look at your last 30 days and can't find evidence of your top priorities, you're not in alignment. That gap is what creates frustration. People say they're committed, but their actions say otherwise. That kind of split keeps you stuck. But the good news is that it can be fixed. You don't need to overhaul your life. You just need to start showing up where it matters. Show up in small ways every day. That repetition will rebuild your identity. That's how you turn intention into proof. Quiet, repeated effort builds trust with yourself. You stop needing external motivation because you begin to see yourself as someone who follows through. That changes the way you think. You no longer wonder if you're capable. You know you are because you have the daily evidence. You stop talking about potential and start living with purpose. That kind of shift doesn't need big moments. It needs regular, intentional behavior. You wake up, you show up, and you do what matters. That rhythm becomes your foundation. It grounds you when life gets noisy and uncertain. You can't rely on momentum if it's built on emotion. Emotion fades. The only way to stay grounded is to build from routine, not feeling. When you prove your priorities with quiet effort, you remove the need for dramatic motivation. You create progress through discipline, not energy. That's a stronger form of motivation. It's built from structure. It's built from knowing that no matter how you feel, you're capable of doing what you said you would. That kind of discipline turns ordinary days into powerful ones. And those days stack up. There's no need to announce your priorities when your actions are already showing them. People believe what they see, not what they hear. And over time, they'll notice. They'll see the change in how you speak, how you carry yourself, how you handle your responsibilities. That shift won't come from one big push. It'll come from quiet, repeated effort, done when no one asked you to. That's how you earn real respect. Not with loud declarations, but with undeniable consistency. That's how you prove what actually matters to you. Success that's built slowly lasts longer. It holds up under stress because it wasn't rushed. it was earned. The effort you give every day, even when it's not visible to others, is changing you. It's creating habits that shape your future. Even if you don't see it yet, the repetition is working. It's building a version of you that's reliable, focused, and strong. That strength will reveal itself when life tests you. You won't need to scramble to get back on track. You'll already be on it, one step at a time. If your days are filled with distractions, your priorities will get buried. You have to protect your effort from being spread too thin. The more focused your actions, the clearer your progress becomes. You don't need to do everything. You need to do what matters most, and you need to do it consistently. That's how you go from being busy to being effective. Quiet, repeated effort sharpens your purpose. It removes the noise. It helps you see what's truly worth your time. And once you see that, it becomes easier to let go of everything else. This is the difference between goals and standards. Goals are what you say you want. Standards are what you actually live by. If your standards are strong, they don't need to be spoken. They show up in your behavior. They show up in your choices. Proving your priorities isn't about pressure. It's about alignment. It's about showing up each day with intention, doing what matters, and letting the results speak. That's the power of consistent action. It builds a life where your priorities are proven, not by what you claim, but by what you do again and again. Number 8, show discipline when nobody claps or pays attention. Real discipline isn't built when people are watching. It's built in silence, when no one's checking in, when there's no audience. That's when it matters most. If you can't show up when the applause is gone, you're not consistent. You're performing. But discipline isn't a performance. It's a commitment. You don't need to be seen to stay on track. You just need to know why it matters. And when your reason is strong enough, you won't need the spotlight. You'll show up because you've decided to. That's the kind of strength that lasts, the kind that doesn't fade under pressure. People often tie their effort to external validation. They want to feel recognized. They want feedback. And while those things can help, they're not reliable. You can't build your discipline on other people's approval. Some days, no one will notice your work. Some days, no one will care what you're doing. But that doesn't mean the work is meaningless. The effort you put in when no one's watching is often the most powerful. It's where your character is tested. And if you pass that test, you become stronger than most people ever will. There will be moments when your consistency feels invisible. You'll look around and wonder if anyone sees how hard you're trying. And the answer might be no. But that's okay, because you're not doing it for attention. You're doing it for progress. You're doing it to become someone you can rely on. That kind of discipline is rare. Most people stop when recognition fades. But if you stay focused through the silence, you gain an edge. You build a foundation others can't match. And one day your results will speak louder than any applause could. When discipline is real, it doesn't need reminders. You don't have to be told to keep going. You've already made that decision. And when you've made that decision, you don't need daily praise to keep working. You rely on your standards, not your feelings. You know what needs to be done, and you do it, quietly, repeatedly. That kind of routine strengthens your identity. It proves that you're dependable, not when it's easy, not when people cheer, but when it's quiet. That's the kind of discipline that creates lasting change. You have to accept that much of your progress will go unnoticed. You'll be doing the right things and no one will congratulate you. But you'll still be moving forward. You'll still be getting better. And that's what matters. You're not here to impress people. You're here to improve your life. The reward for discipline is growth, not recognition. Recognition is temporary. Growth stays. Every action you take, even in silence, adds to your strength. Every disciplined choice you make, when no one's around, builds something others can't see, until it becomes undeniable. The work you do in the background is where your future is shaped. It's in the early mornings, the quiet evenings, the time when no one is around to clap or notice. That's where consistency matters most. Not because it's impressive, but because it's real. That's when you prove to yourself that you're committed, that you don't need attention to stay focused. You just need direction. If your focus depends on praise, you'll break the moment things go quiet. But if your focus comes from purpose, you'll keep going no matter what. Success doesn't show up all at once. It's the result of years of unnoticed effort. People will see your progress and call it luck. They'll assume it happened fast. They won't know about the days you stayed disciplined without a single word of encouragement. But you'll remember every moment you chose discipline over comfort. Every time you stayed on track while no one was paying attention. And those are the days that built your results. Quiet progress isn't weak. It's powerful. It creates momentum that can't be taken away. You don't need to announce your discipline. You don't need to explain your commitment. The people who matter will see it in how you carry yourself, in how you keep showing up. Over time, discipline becomes your reputation. Not because you talked about it, but because you lived it. You became the person who followed through, again and again, without a spotlight, without validation. And that kind of consistency earns more than attention. It earns respect. It earns results. And it earns a kind of personal pride that no one can give you. You have to earn it. If you only act when it's convenient, you'll stay stuck. But if you act when it's quiet, when you feel tired, when no one's watching, that's when everything begins to change. That's where growth begins. Not in the perfect conditions, but in the hard ones. When you're consistent in silence, you're preparing for moments that matter. You're getting ready for opportunities others won't be prepared for. Because while they waited for support, you were building strength. And that strength is what separates those who talk about growth from those who live it. This is what the power of consistent action looks like. It's not loud. It's not flashy. It's steady. It's daily. It's the choice to keep going even when it's quiet. It's the habit of showing discipline with no applause. It's the decision to stay on your path without needing recognition. And when you do that long enough, your results will become the only thing people can see. Not because you asked them to look, but because consistency can't stay hidden forever. It always reveals itself, quietly, clearly, and powerfully. Number 9, stay committed long enough to earn real progress. Progress doesn't reward the person who starts strong. It rewards the person who stays. Most people begin with energy and excitement, but very few stay long enough to see real change. Real progress takes time, and time demands commitment. You have to be willing to continue when results are slow, when doubts creep in, and when nothing feels certain. That's the test most never pass. They quit too soon. But if you want to experience real transformation, you have to commit to the process fully and patiently. Not for a moment, but for as long as it takes to build something real. You don't plant a seed and expect it to grow overnight. You don't build strength from a single workout, and you don't master a skill by trying it once. Progress needs repetition. It needs consistency, and it needs you to stay in the game when others walk away. There's nothing impressive about quitting halfway, but there's something powerful about sticking to your plan through the slow days. When you stay committed longer than most people are willing to, you start to separate yourself. You stop hoping for quick results and start building results that last. You will face moments where you feel like nothing is changing. You'll show up, you'll do the work, and the progress will feel invisible. That's where most people stop, but that's also where you grow if you stay. Staying committed when progress is invisible is where all the difference is made. That's when you build patience. That's when you build resilience. You learn to trust your effort, not the scoreboard. You trust the process, not the feeling. And that mindset keeps you moving forward, long after most people have given up on their goals. When you commit to a path, you give yourself a chance to improve. Not just once, but again and again. Every time you repeat the effort, you learn something new. You adjust, you sharpen your understanding, and eventually those small lessons stack up into mastery. But that only happens if you stay the course. If you change directions every time it gets hard, you lose everything you've built. You have to give your actions time to pay off. You have to trust that discipline today becomes strength tomorrow. If you're willing to stick with it long enough, most of the time people think they're not progressing, but they are. They're just measuring it by the wrong standard. They want fast growth, visible changes, but real progress is subtle. It's quiet. It's built in the background. You don't always feel it happening, but that doesn't mean it's not. That's why commitment matters. Because staying long enough allows the work to take root, to settle in, to create something solid. If you give up too soon, you miss the part where things start to shift. The moment is coming, but you have to still be around for it to happen. Discipline without duration is wasted effort. It's not enough to start doing the right things. You have to keep doing them, day after day, week after week. Even when it feels like you've hit a wall, staying committed doesn't mean you never question yourself. It means you don't abandon the process just because it's hard. If the goal is worth it, so is the time it takes to get there. And if you're honest with yourself, you'll admit that rushing never works. What works is showing up every day and staying until your actions turn into actual results. Progress respects those who earn it. You don't get stronger by giving less. You don't move forward by jumping between shortcuts. There's no fast track to what matters. There's only effort, and effort must be consistent over time to produce anything meaningful. Every time you want to quit, but choose to keep going, you're earning something. Maybe it's not visible yet. Maybe it doesn't feel big, but it's real. It's shaping you. It's preparing you for what's ahead. The longer you stay committed, the more you build. Not just outcomes, but character. You'll never regret staying committed to something that mattered to you. Even if the journey was hard, even if the progress was slow, what you will regret is giving up before you gave it a real chance. That's the kind of mistake that stays with you. But the discipline of sticking it out builds pride. It builds strength. When you look back, you'll know that every step forward was earned, not given. You didn't wait for luck. You didn't quit for comfort. You chose to stay, and that choice made all the difference in your results. The ones who make real progress are the ones who stop chasing perfect timing. They stop waiting for motivation. They don't need every day to feel exciting. They need it to be consistent. They commit not for the applause, but for the outcome. They keep working when no one is watching. They keep showing up when it's inconvenient. And because of that, they go further than anyone expected. Their results aren't built on one moment of effort. They're built on years of steady, focused action that never gave up early. That's what the power of consistent action demands. Not perfection, not intensity, but the ability to stay through the slow progress, to stay when no one notices, to stay until the work you've been doing starts to build something real. It's not about how fast you move. It's about how long you're willing to keep going. That's how you earn real progress. Not with noise, not with speed, but with quiet, unshakable commitment that shows up every single day until the result finally becomes undeniable. Stay long enough. That's where real change lives. Number 10, get better by doing the basics every single day. Improvement isn't about chasing complicated strategies. It's about mastering the basics and doing them without fail. The people who grow the most are not the ones always looking for new tricks. They're the ones who wake up and do the simple things with precision every day. They don't get bored with repetition. They understand that true growth comes from doing the work even when it feels routine. Most people overlook this. They want excitement. They want change. But change comes from doing what matters repeatedly. That's where the progress begins. That's where habits are formed and results begin to stack. Doing the basics isn't glamorous, but it works. You don't need to be extraordinary to make real progress. You need to be consistent with the fundamentals, whether it's your health, your mindset, your finances, or your skills. Everything improves when you repeat the right small actions. It could be reading daily, exercising, managing time, or practicing a craft. What matters most is not intensity. It's repetition. Day in and day out. The basics build the structure, and the structure is what holds everything together when life becomes unpredictable or pressure starts to rise. If you're not doing the basics, nothing advanced will matter. You can have all the information in the world, but without daily action on the fundamentals, it won't mean anything. The basics keep you focused. They protect you from being overwhelmed. They give you clarity when distractions pull at your attention. You don't need to search for better answers. You need to commit to what already works and repeat it long enough for it to make a difference. That's how you build a strong foundation that doesn't collapse when things get hard. Some people avoid the basics because they seem too simple. They believe progress should feel more complicated. So they skip what works and chase shortcuts. But the truth is, Those who win don't outsmart the system. They respect it. They take what works and do it every day, whether they feel like it or not. That kind of attitude changes your direction. It keeps you grounded in action instead of floating around in theory. And over time, those basics, done with discipline, shape who you become. They transform potential into progress. When you do the basics every day, you don't just get better, you get stronger mentally. You build a routine that trains your mind to stay committed. You develop self-respect because you keep your word to yourself. You don't skip the process just because the task is small. You understand that small does not mean weak. It means manageable. It means sustainable. And sustainability is what creates long-term success. The daily basics give you something to lean on, something to build with. They give you control in a world that constantly pushes chaos. Every day is a chance to show up for yourself. You don't have to take huge steps. You just have to take the right ones. And when those steps are grounded in the basics, your direction stays clear. You're not scattered. You're not guessing. You're moving with intention. And that kind of movement doesn't fade. It builds. It's the reason some people keep growing while others burn out. Not because they were better, but because they stayed simple. They stayed committed. And they repeated the habits that created progress, even when the results weren't immediate. People often want change to feel exciting, but lasting change feels consistent. It feels stable, and that stability comes from doing the basics, especially when you're tired or distracted. You won't always be motivated. You won't always feel energized. But if your habits are built around the basics, you'll still move forward. Even if it's slow, you'll still make progress. That's what matters. It's not about moving fast. It's about moving steadily. You don't have to break records every day. You just have to keep your commitment to the basics alive. No one sees how often you do the basics. No one claps when you complete small tasks. But eventually, those tasks add up. The results begin to show. People start to notice something different about how you think, how you operate, how you respond. That change wasn't built by doing something once. It was built by doing something right, over and over. That's why the basics are so powerful. They don't just build your results. They build your discipline. They build your resilience. And they remind you that simple action, done daily, is always enough. You can't control everything, but you can control your habits. You can choose to show up and do what matters, even when no one reminds you, even when progress feels slow. The basics give you something to rely on. They ground your day in structure. They protect your future from collapse. If you want to get better at anything, go back to the basics. Then make those basics non-negotiable. Make them a part of your life, not something you visit when it's convenient. That's how you take control of your path. That's the power of consistent action. It doesn't depend on energy. It doesn't rely on motivation. It depends on a clear choice to do the right things every single day. The basics aren't just for beginners. They're for anyone who wants to build something real, something that lasts. If you repeat the right habits, if you stay faithful to the simple actions, if you build your life on those quiet steps, your progress won't just be noticeable, it will be undeniable. You'll move further than those who chased everything but mastered nothing. That's the power of staying with the basics. Now you know the truth. Your life will only change when your actions become consistent. Not when you feel like it, not when it's easy, but every single day. Real progress doesn't come from bursts of motivation. It comes from small, repeated efforts that stack up over time. You don't need permission. You don't need a crowd. You need commitment. Decide what matters to you and prove it with your actions, not just today, but tomorrow and the day after that. The power of consistent action is simple, but it's rare, and that's why it works. Most people won't do it, but you can. Now is the time to show discipline when it's quiet. Build habits that don't need reminders. Do the work whether someone sees it or not. Because in the end, your results will speak, and they'll speak loud. Stay consistent, stay focused, and let your actions create the life you know you're capable of.